She started with a problem she had, which was processing receipts. She kept losing them and was forever being chased down by her accounts department when it came time for reimbursements. She couldn't use any of the Western software, and that is how she came to start her tech business, offering software that is powered by artificial intelligence and one that could serve her Filipino market well. Hello and welcome to Season 4 of the Womenpreneur Asia podcast, and I'm your host, Krista Good. I'm also an entrepreneur, author, marketer, storyteller, and connector. Each season, I feature Asian women entrepreneurs who are open enough to talk about their businesses and lives. I do this because I believe it is time that Asian women have a platform for their voices to be heard. Join me as I uncover diverse experiences, knowledge, and wisdom that will help you strategize and grow your business no matter where you are or what stage you are at now. These are real conversations with everyday women in business across Asia. This episode is brought to you by my company, Redbox Studio. Today's episode is with Jocelyn Pantastico, who is the co-founder and CEO of Olivia Technology Group based in the Philippines. Jocs, as she is more fondly known, has spent most of her life in the corporate world, with many of those years as an expat in Indonesia. In 2018, she returned to the Philippines to start her tech startup, Olivia, which was a milestone that she's most proud of. Her software frees companies from tedious manual data capture so that they can focus on real work. Olivia, yes, that's the name of the software, processes receipts and invoices, translating them into reports and digital assets in seconds. But it isn't really about the receipts as we get deeper into the interview. We spoke about how her world is distinctively different from her corporate days. She talks about the startup lessons as she learned to build her startup and how she had to change the way she thought about putting products out into the market. She also talks about how her software is creating more value for accountants rather than take away their jobs. And in that process, she uncovered too the reason people were leaving accountancy firms. We also talked about why women don't talk about money as openly as men, and her realization that she needed to be open about money with her daughter. She revealed some really smart strategies about teaching her daughter how to invest, ultimately giving her a head start with money, and how that has transformed her own daughter's relationship with money and wealth. Let's get into today's episode with Jocelyn Pantastico of Olivia Technology Group. Welcome to Womenpreneur Asia, Jocs.
Hello, Krista. Nice to be here, and thanks for having me. I'm really grateful for this community that helps women entrepreneurs like me to engage with the other women in the ecosystem and share my story and share our story.
And where are you dialing in or calling in now from?
Yeah, I'm calling in from Manila. I tend to travel around the region quite a bit, but obviously it's been limited now. So I'm mainly based in Manila.
And what do you do in Manila?
So I actually run a startup called Olivia. So, and what we do is that we automate expense management through AI. And what that means is that instead of having to manually encode all your receipts and invoices into Excel spreadsheets, you just need to use our app to scan a receipt, and all the details will be extracted, and a report can be auto-generated in a few seconds. So it saves companies at least 50% of the time. But more than that, it allows people and employees and companies to actually scale, and allows employees to really focus on value-adding work.
And how did you come about to start this business?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I was working in corporate a few years back, and I was doing a lot of traveling in my job, entertaining. So I had a lot of reimbursements to submit to the company. And I was always getting followed up by our accounting department, right? Because my reports were always late, and for them, they can't really finish closing the monthly books because my reports were late. So I said, I was thinking that, am I the only one suffering from this? I would lose receipts. It would take me weeks to get the reimbursement done. So I was trying to look for solutions, and I did find solutions that were from overseas, from US, from Europe. But the problem was they were not recognizing Asian receipts. At the time I was in Indonesia in Indonesia, and wouldn't recognize Indonesia receipts, and it wouldn't recognize Philippine receipts definitely. So I said, wow, okay, this is a big white space perhaps. So fast forward a few years later, and I came across this technology actually that my brother developed, and we decided to address that pain. So yeah, that's really how it started. It started from my own pain point, and discovered that as I spoke to more people, more companies, that it's not an isolated problem. Employees have to wait for 2-3 weeks even to get their money from the company, simply because it takes so long to process manually all these expense and reimbursement reports.
Now, that's a very interesting way of starting a business because, it's not really that unusual, but it's also interesting because you had a problem when you were in corporate.
Yes.
Right? And then you decided to do something about it. So when you said that the other solutions in the market did not recognize the receipts, what does that mean?
So, for example, I downloaded and looked at some apps from overseas, and they could scan the receipt, but they were not getting all the details. It would only take maybe 2 or 3 details, and the rest has to be manually encoded. Also, the requirements, the compliance requirements in Asia, Philippines specifically, is that there are about 8 fields that need to be captured for submission to the Internal Revenue for tax filing, but those are not captured. So you'd still have to manually encode those. So it's not only about the fact that they're not able to recognize Philippine receipts. It's also the fact that our compliance requirements in this region and in this country are quite different.
So they're quite different from what was available, right?
Yes, exactly.
In the market solutions.
Yes.
So it's also interesting that you have a brother who managed to develop that software.
Yeah. So he is a very experienced software engineer, and when we were talking about this problem, initially we were thinking, okay, maybe we should just take on a third party. A third-party software solution to do all the scanning, as well as what we call the parsing or the processing of all that information. But we found that 1, they were quite expensive, and 2, it's still not what we needed. And that's when he decided, okay, let's build our own. It took some time because we need to, there are thousands of different formats of receipts and invoices, and we had to really optimize it for different kinds of receipts. So it took us about a year or over a year to do that, but now we have a product that is really able to have at least on the average about 85% accuracy in terms of capturing expense fields.
So this Olivia, the software, is really made for the Philippines market. Am I right?
Yes, it is made for the Philippines market. It can be adapted to other markets as well. But at the moment, our first market is the Philippines. So we made sure that we're addressing the types of receipts and invoices that you would encounter here.
So you really decided to zoom in on your home market first.
Yes.
Before even going
it's a market
other
that
places.
we know.
Yeah. And why the name Olivia? Because I was very intrigued by it. Because I know of course, you can name a software anything, right? Any name. But why specifically Olivia?
That's true. So first disclaimer is that I am not Olivia. My daughter's name is not Olivia. No one in the company is called Olivia. But really, the genesis of the name is from the olive tree, and the olive tree lives for at least 500, some even 1,000 years. And money management, and the first thing, it's all about stewardship and making sure that you're passing on wealth to the next generation. And where it starts is really having visibility on where money is going, whether you are an individual, a small business, an accounting firm. Yeah, so that's really the basis of it all, being able to know where your money is going, or where the funds are going, so that you have enough of a legacy to pass on to the next generation. Some people have asked us also whether the Olivia is short for O stands for something, and L stands for something techie, right? No, but it's just simple. It's Olivia from the olive tree.
Let's talk a little bit about before you started the business, right? So right now you're running this software company, but before that, what were you doing? I know you hinted about that when we were just introducing you and all that, but let us know, what was that life before you started this business?
So it was a very different life, in a sense that it was a very corporate life, and now I'm in a startup environment. I was in corporate for a long time in kind of management, P&L management, business development, and regional roles. So as I mentioned, I had to travel a lot to different Southeast Asian markets, I was mainly doing business development and dealing with like multinationals in, the packaged goods and tech and banking areas. I also worked a lot cross-functionally with C-levels, but also across, marketing, sales, purchasing, manufacturing. In fact, that helped me a lot as I was going through my when I sort of transitioned into my startup role. So yeah, it was a very different environment and very different life, I guess.
And you also were an expat for the longest time, right?
Yes, so I was an expat in both Indonesia and Singapore. So in fact, I just came back to the Philippines about 3-4 years ago. Interestingly enough, because my husband, who is Singaporean, came back. Was posted to the Philippines, and he's actually the reason why we came back.
So he was posted back to the Philippines, and then you followed.
Yes. So
otherwise, you would have launched Olivia in, I don't know, Indonesia or Singapore.
Indonesia or Singapore, but I'm really happy that we did it. Because in fact, the market for what we are doing for automation, there's a huge white space in the Philippines now. There's a lot of even large companies that are still, they have 30, 50 people just kind of manually encoding expenses. This is really an area that we could really help the Philippines digitize.
It sounds like a great solution for especially your home market. But one of the things that I also know that, it's hard being a startup, right?
Oh, yes.
When you first started, were there anything that you felt that, wow, I'm learning this for the first time?
Right. So it was a challenging transition, to put it like mildly. Corporate was about building, factories and big infrastructures, and to launch products, you need a lot of research and a perfect plan. All the simulations covered before you go to market. Startup is very much the opposite, and it's about launching and making mistakes quickly and iterating and learning. So it was a totally different way of working. So when I first started, with my startup, I wanted to have everything in place, and we couldn't launch. And I say, no, we shouldn't launch until we have this, all, all our puppies lined up. And then I was talking to some advisors and mentors who were already, and more experienced startup founders than I was. And they said, no, you don't need to do that. Don't be afraid to launch, and just learn as you go along. And they were telling me about this famous quote by this famous guy, Reid Hoffman, who is from LinkedIn. And he said that if you are not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you've launched too late. And that really stuck to my mind. That was my first learning, that you don't have to have everything all figured out when you launch. In fact, launching your product gives you an opportunity to get an early feel for the market acceptance, and then now you can iterate, you can develop it more, tweak it a little bit. So that was the biggest, I guess, change that I had to make and to learn how to do.
And I think what you said is really true, because I think all of us are really sometimes just afraid of launching or putting our product out there in the market, because there's so many fears, right? Like, what if it's not perfect? Especially what if it's not perfect, right? What if it's like kind of semi-finished?
That is so true.
So I think, I think not only just startup founders, but anyone who is putting something out there is really afraid of perhaps not being perfect in it. And you have just, told us that it doesn't have to be perfect. You just put it out there. And since putting it out there, what has been the market response towards your product?
It's actually been very, very positive, in the sense that, they didn't realize that there was another way to do things. In the West, what we are doing is more mature. There are more companies, and that area of automating expense management, spend management is more. There's more awareness, but here in the Philippines, it's still very nascent. So when people find out that, hey, there's such a solution, they're quite pleasantly surprised. We've started, our go-to-market has been accounting firms, and we have one of the larger accounting firms already on board, a few of them. And we also have smaller accounting firms that have more like 30 to 50, SMEs or MSMEs that they're serving, also using our product. So it's been really good in terms of the traction. We are still learning about, and we still continue to tweak our product, but the traction has been quite promising.
So when you were talking about the accounting companies that are adopting your software for themselves and their own users, was that the target market that you had in mind when you started Olivia?
Yes, that is interesting, because we, if our eventual target, our ultimate target are really companies, but we realize that it is maybe less efficient to target the companies one by one. And therefore, we decided on a go-to-market that is more efficient. So if you target one accounting firm, you immediately hit 30, 40, 50 companies all at once, right? So if you get maybe 100 of these accounting firms, each of them having 50 clients, so that's a lot of SMEs that you are able to reach very efficiently. So it was a conscious decision to first target or introduce our product through accounting firms.
Other than accounting firms, are there any other target users for your software?
Right. So, individuals can also use it. So if you're a solopreneur, You can use the app as well. That's not a problem. You can register for the service, and companies with accounting departments, they can also use the product. It's just that in the initial stages, we are targeting the accounting firms. But if we hit or come across other companies or small businesses, they can definitely use our product directly.
So eventually, if any solopreneurs or any smaller businesses, they decide that I would like to use Olivia, they can also sign up and subscribe and use the service.
Yes, absolutely.
And what do you enjoy most about your business?
What do I enjoy most about our business? I guess one is, problem solving, both for our own company, because in a startup, you really deal with, it's so, you have, new things coming up, problems, fires that you need to put out. And CEO is such a misleading title for a startup, because really as a project, I would rather call myself a project leader rather than a CEO, because really what we do is we manage everything. So we try to solve problems, big problems, small problems. How do we get this from this location to that location? How do we communicate? Does our messaging align with what the market needs are? So it's all about problem solving. I think I enjoy that. But ultimately, I'm motivated really by helping companies and employees engage in meaningful work. When we were talking to companies before we fully launched our product, we thought that, okay, it's time savings, but what is really behind the time savings? And as we spoke to accounting associates, accounting staff, we found that and accounting managers, actually heads of departments, they were experiencing a lot of resignations from their team. And when they probed about why are you leaving, and it's really because they are bored with their jobs, because all they're doing is kind of manual encoding. They studied so long, 4 years, they majored in accounting, all they're doing is manual encoding. Their jobs are devalued. They can't progress much further. It's the same cycle every month end closing. So they feel that they're caught in this vicious cycle of drudgery and boring work and
and just
work.
Keying in numbers, right?
Keying in numbers. It's repetitive. It doesn't add value. And therefore so what we're doing, automation has gotten a very bad reputation, because people tend to think that automation, okay, it means you're getting rid of people. Right.
Yeah.
But actually, the whole point about automation is that it needs to free up people. It's not there to get rid of people. It's about freeing people of jobs that don't add value, so that they can do meaningful work.
That is absolutely spot on. Because I think that what people don't understand is that if you free people up from the drudgery, they can move higher up the value chain, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
They can start perhaps learning other things that could add value to the company, rather than just manually keying in numbers every single day.
And you're right. In fact, these accounting associates who are resigning say that, what they actually want to do, they said, I didn't sign up for this, but what I signed up for, what I was expecting, they said, was being able to do analysis, being able to present, the result of the work to their boss or to their boss's boss. They don't actually want to be doing all these drudgery, manual and tedious manual encoding.
So you actually uncovered the reason why people were leaving accounting firms.
Yes, correct. Yes.
And that also came about because you started talking to them, right? Started talking to the customers of your software.
Yes. And the potential customers. So because at that time we haven't even launched yet. So all we had was like a prototype. So we were going, presenting to different potential customers, saying, okay, this is what you can do. You can just bulk upload your invoices and it will automatically extract. And like their eyes were going like really round and saying, "You mean what? This is possible? We don't have to manually encode. We don't have to check because we also have duplicate detection. So if you upload or if you scan the same invoice or receipt, it will tell you, hey, this is a duplicate of something." So they
That's
didn't
really
realize
clever.
it was possible. Yeah,
Because you could be scanning lots and lots of receipts and invoices, right? And you've probably
Exactly.
forgotten that you've scanned it before.
exactly.
So you've really uncovered something else totally when you were talking or presenting your product to the market.
Yes.
Where we spoke, you felt very strongly about not just starting a business, but also on another topic, which we had such a great conversation about women and investing.
Yes.
So shall we go down that path a little bit? Because I think that is also
Absolutely.
coming back to what you're doing, but in a different way, right?
Yes.
And where are you on this topic of women, investment, and money? And of course, tied into your software, of course, because your software keeps track of expenses and all these things.
Yes. So my take on this is the fact that, men may be the CEOs, but women tend to be the CFOs of the household, whether we realize it and accept it or not. Women make decisions on purchases, how much to set aside, but oftentimes we shy away from decisions like investing because we think that either it's only for the rich or it's the area for men only. When in fact, women, need to be investing because we have things like career breaks that mean that which means that the number of earning years for us is even less than our male counterparts. That's my view about women and investing, that we shouldn't shy. We are already the CFOs of the household, and I think we should accept that. And that means that we should look at not just spending, saving, but also look at other ways to grow the income. And one of those, a very powerful tool is investing. And so I myself struggled with finances. I'm nowhere where my daughter is now, and she's 21. When I was 21, I didn't even understand the basics of why do I need to budget, right? So I myself struggled with finances when I started working. I was the girl who would buy 5 pairs of shoes, and because I knew I would get scolded when I get home, I would slowly bring them into the house. So I would keep first 2 in the car, the other 2 in my cousin's house, and then 1 I will bring home. So I had those. I had very, very bad practices and I had a very bad relationship with money, I guess, to put it bluntly. I couldn't find resources, either books or people that spoke to me because they tended to speak at me. In other words, they were kind of preachy. It sounded like your mother or grandmother talking down on you. So most of them, the messages just kind of like went in one ear and went out the other. And most of them also, most of the resources, the books, especially on investing, were written by men, and definitely it would be for men. And that's really
that
why.
Is true. Actually, I haven't realized that. Actually, that is true.
Yes. I mean, I admire, I have nothing against people like Warren Buffett. I'm a big fan. But I think the women are coming from a different place when thinking about and planning for investments. And that's why even when I was in corporate, I was actually already doing I was coaching women on just basics of money and just getting them comfortable talking about money. Because I don't know about you, Krista, but in when I was growing up, we never spoke about money at the dinner table. It's taboo topic, right?
I don't think I've ever spoken about money at the dinner table with my parents either. It's just something that probably people don't talk about very much. That's also the reason why I grow up not knowing much, right? About money,
Yes.
or
Correct,
how to use it or how to invest it.
So, I mean, back to your original question. So, with all that backstory and background, we decided, my husband and I decided that, I mean, he's in banking, he's very good with money. So at that time, we were kind of at different ends of the scale when it came to managing money and just investing. So we agreed that, we would instill in our daughter the right attitude towards money. And when she was 10 years old, instead of throwing like a big party for her and buying her expensive gifts, so we decided to actually start a stock portfolio for her. And, it was just a little amount of money, but she made the decisions on what to buy, and of how much of something to buy. She didn't read. I mean, at 10 years old, you can't read annual reports. So she really based it on, and that's how we taught her to just buy companies that you like and that you think you believe in and that you think that will be here in the next 10, 20, 30 years. So she bought an airline stock. She bought an entertainment company. She bought into a hotel chain, brands and companies that we were, she was already using, she's familiar with. And that's how she started. She was 10 years old at that time. And now she grew that portfolio, that initial portfolio about 200 times. So now she's actually quite financially independent. And just as an updated story to that, she in fact just I think a couple of 2 months ago decided to buy her first property at 21.
Wow,
yeah,
that's an amazing story.
Yeah, and it's really, so that really proves that it's just about having the right attitude towards money
and the right parents.
The right parents who made all the mistakes already before so that she doesn't have to.
It's also good that you and your husband decided to do this for her, even at that age where she wouldn't have realized that it would be making such a big difference in her life right now, 11 years later.
Yeah. And it also helped, in a sense, it gave her slowly, of course, she didn't grasp the concepts immediately, but after a few years, I'll just tell you one story. We were traveling somewhere, and we normally take this airline that actually she bought stocks of, and we told her, Sam is her name, Sam, we have to use another airline and we have to go a different route because this airline is fully booked, the airline that we normally take. And she said, and because she has stocks of that airline, and rather than throw a tantrum because it would have been a longer trip or she wouldn't be able to enjoy the benefits of that airline, she said, and I think she was 12 at that time, she said that, oh, that's good, mommy, right? So it means that the stock price of that airline will increase because the demand is higher. So, at that time, she wasn't even taking economics in school yet. She understand the concept of supply and demand already. I didn't teach it to her, but because she was reading about, she's exposed to the relationships of stock prices and market forces, she's able to make those conclusions and analysis. So I think these things you don't really learn in school so easily and as practical.
And for you and your husband to do that, I mean, were you inspired by the people that you saw around you, or did you just suddenly wake up and say, okay, let's do this for our daughter?
That's a very interesting question. I guess we knew that we wanted to do this for her, but at the time, we just said, okay, let's just start her early. In fact, one of the other things that we tended to do is every year we have, how in companies you have this strat planning sessions every year, right, Krista?
Yeah.
Before you start the next year. So we would do that for our family as well. So during December break, we would go into get into a conference room. We would hire a conference room for an hour or two. And my husband would prepare some slides and I would prepare some, I would look at the goals, and he would look at the current finances. So we would actually almost treat our family finances as a group thing and treat it as a spat planning session. And that also, and even that we were already doing from when she was 10, 11 years old. So we wanted to expose her for her to understand our family finances quite early, so that when she grew up, then she had more of a working knowledge about it already.
So actually, you did expose her to a lot of these concepts when she was much younger then.
Yes, correct. So the concept of even like, we want to go, as a part of our strat planning meeting in December or January, was something like, okay, where do travel is high on the list for this is, pre-pandemic. So, okay, we decide, okay, where do we want to go this year? Okay, so it's in these 3 destinations. So how much would we need? So we would bring her through that process as well.
So it means that for her, she already had a really good, like in a way, a foundation for how she thought about money, or how she used money, or how she looked at money, right? Because from those strat meetings, strat family meetings. So have you seen this used by other people, or is it just very unique to your family?
To be honest, I'm not sure. Certainly, I think I've seen some parents whose kids are investing at a young age. I've told that friends who have young children that we are doing this strat planning family planning sessions yearly, and including our daughter in it. But yeah, I think more people should probably do it, because again, it goes back to our point, Krista, earlier, that we didn't grow up talking about money, and therefore we thought it's not something we should talk about, or maybe it's I even thought that at one point money is evil. That's probably why we don't talk about it. Or money corrupts people, and that's probably why we don't talk about it. Right?
Yeah. And money comes with its own connotations, all kinds of things are wrapped up in money, right? All kinds of thought forms, what we believe about money. Belief systems actually influence a lot of our decisions about how we use our money, or how we, take care of our money. I think it's great. I love the fact that you did this with your daughter when she was young, and you started her early on concepts and ways of being part of the family planning and decision making, right?
Yes.
And so today she can even buy her own property. How amazing is that? I think more parents should probably follow this way of talking about money to their children.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and every family is different, because they came from, they have different backgrounds. Culture plays a lot into this, right? But I think the first step is really just to not fear, not avoid money conversations. And even just start with asking, talking about what worries. So I guess if you start to chip away talking about worries, goals, what you wish you had done differently, I think that it makes the conversation, easier.
Yeah. And it's easier to talk about something that you're not afraid of.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And especially for women, that's one other thing that I forgot to, I probably want to pick up, when you ask me about women and money. Women, we think that we are bad at managing money. So for us, the default is, no, I'm not good at managing money. But when I was talking to women, I can see their budgeting notebooks, the Excel spreadsheets that they use to make sure everything is tallying on a weekly, daily, monthly basis. I mean, they're actually doing a good job. It's just that they've been wired to think that, we're not good at managing money.
I've also had this conversation with some of my girlfriends, right? And I just really discovered that, most of us don't talk about money. Or we kind of like feel a little bit embarrassed.
Right. I think it's, Well, I guess there are different dimensions to it, but a pattern that I tend to see is, we tend to compare ourselves with others. So, for example, just take investing. Rather than say, okay, this is my situation, this is how I should invest, we approach it, a lot of women, and I used to do this too, approach investing like, oh, this person is buying this stock, or this person is buying this kind of investment instrument, and that's what I should also do. So it becomes like, one, you're just copying someone else's strategy that might not be applicable
the right strategy for you, right?
Exactly, yeah. And two, if that's the case, then you would definitely, his results would definitely not have the same results as yours, because your situation is different. So that's one. Two, I think a lot of women, me, myself included, with the idea of perfection. You have to be perfect. Your Excel spreadsheets have to balance out. Your notebooks, your budgeting notebooks, has to be really neat, and they have to, the expenses, the money in should be equal to the money out. So I think that's how we've been, we have been wiring ourselves. But as with a lot of things, I think for money, it's the more important thing is to think of it as, making progress, or progress, not perfection. Because
I like that.
Yeah, because if you aim for perfection, or if you can only accept perfection, then it opens yourself up to seeing yourself as a failure. Yeah, because I didn't achieve this, then I failed. But it's actually not about getting there. It's about getting towards that goal. And I think in a lot of cases, we view money, our ability to manage money in that way, or because we were not able to hit our budget, we have failed. And the problem is, when you think you're a failure, then you tend to spiral. You tend to think that, oh, I'm not good at this, and what is the point? I will lose money anyway. Okay, then I might as well just spend it. Yeah. So that, I think the idea of making progress rather than aiming for perfection is what we need to kind of learn in whatever we do, but especially when it comes to money.
And that also is something. That's why I wanted to bring this up too, because as we were talking before we got recording, right? We talked about this, and I thought that this was a message that we could really let other women know. It's okay to talk about money. It's nothing, there's nothing wrong talking about it, but at the same time, we should equip ourselves with the right knowledge to do something about it, right? I mean, if there's something I don't know, I guess I should go and learn about it, like maybe investment vehicles or things that perhaps, like for now, NFTs.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So now that we've talked about, okay, what you know, what you believe, and the things that you're doing in your business, let's talk about you growing up. How was your growing up year?
Okay, my parents were both professors at university, so they were both scientists. They have PhDs in. My mother was a phycologist, so that's she has a doctorate in algae. So she was working for Southeast Asian Fisheries Development Center. So, and my dad was a horticulturist. So they're very academic. So it was interesting because that's what I learned, that in fact, in order to teach something, you need to understand it even more. I was a student when they were professors at university, and I would sleep at 8 o'clock and they would sleep at 11 o'clock preparing for the lesson. So that was really admirable, and I really admired them both for doing that. So I came from a very, in fact, I lived, our house was very near the university, one of the universities here in the Philippines. Yeah. So growing up was was quite interesting in a sense that my parents would bring students, their students to the house, and they were foreign students. So I got to meet even early on a lot of it was a very multicultural community that we lived in.
Did that somehow influence your career options in life?
Maybe the opposite way, in a sense that, or maybe it's just the way I was exposing myself. I wasn't really into the sciences as much as they were. My brother went into tech even early on. And
he was preparing himself for Olivia Tech Group.
I guess so, yes. And I was more into business. So yeah, it's. I really admire what they're doing, but that probably kind of prompted me also to say that, okay, maybe I'm not the right fit for that. I always loved traveling, even before the budget airlines were. Our family loved traveling, so even though we didn't have budget airlines at the time that I was growing up, we would really plan and save for trips to other various parts of Asia. And I am such a believer in travel, because it really opens your eyes to so many facets of culture, and we used to say that for our daughter we would rather give her the gift of experiences rather than stuff, and traveling does that for you.
So, for instance, if you could turn back the clock and knowing what you know now, what would you tell a younger version of you about life?
Oh, wow. What would I tell the 18-year-old me, right?
Yeah.
I guess one is, don't be afraid to ask for help. And I feel that even more now as I, in the past few years that I've been a startup founder, when you're in corporate, people tend to look at you as the authority. So you become you tend to see yourself as, okay, I am the repository of everything, and I can solve everything. But when you're in a startup environment, you have limited resources. You have no choice but to ask for help. And I think I wish that my younger self would have learned that sooner. I would have probably learned from my mistakes, much more quickly. And for people who are looking to start a business or do a startup, I guess one of my advices, one thing I would tell them is really ask for help. Join an ecosystem. Join communities like yours, Krista. Join an incubator, because don't be afraid to share your idea for fear that people will copy it. That's a really that's also a common.
I know a lot of people say, I can't tell you my idea, right? You understand?
Yes,
NDA.
exactly. Yeah. But ideas are cheap. It's really all about the execution, right? So don't be afraid to talk about your idea. Ask for help. I think that's one thing. I guess the other thing I would tell my younger self is probably if I were my early 20s, I said, start a business already. Don't be afraid. Even if you're still in corporate, start a business. But start a business where you can solve problems. Yeah. And this is the other thing that I tend to kind of share with other entrepreneurs as well. If you're putting up a business or a startup, if for the money only, then I suggest don't do it, because there are easier ways to make money. But if you are itching and you're passionate and you have the skills to solve a problem, then by all means go with both feet, jump with both feet in, because the money, if you're solving a problem, then the money will follow.
And that's so true, because I think a lot of times people just look at the monetary rewards, right?
Yes.
They just want to say, I want to make this amount of money. But their product or solution isn't really solving a real problem. And what's the craziest thing you've ever done?
Oh my goodness. Craziest thing. No, the thing is, I think I'm quite boring. I haven't really done anything super crazy. I guess looking back, when I actually, before I was in Manila and then I was in the Philippines, I was actually going to go to Boston to study, and then I got the job offer to work at the time in Jakarta, and so I begged my parents, okay, can I just take a sabbatical for 1 year. I'll delay my enrollment for a year, and then I'll go to Boston for my master's. And at that time, they were scratching their heads because I wasn't going to, a country that is where a lot of people go to. I was going to Indonesia, and my dad even famously told me that, Jocs, there's only one McDonald's there at that time. Are you sure you really want to go there? So I guess that was a lot of friends were also asking me, okay, you're going abroad, but yeah, where? Again, they knew, Indonesia. They thought they know Indonesia as Bali, right? So yeah, you're going to work in Bali? No, I'm going to Jakarta, which at that time
is the other island. Which is the other island, right?
Correct. Which is in fact much bigger than Bali. So yeah, I guess at that time that was my crazy. One of the crazy things that I did, but I don't regret it one bit. Eventually I stayed there for 10, 15 years, and I didn't do my MBA in Boston. Instead, I took my MBA much later in Chicago, but I don't regret that at all. So yeah, so sometimes being crazy has. Works out.
Has its benefits.
Has its benefits, right?
Can you name a person who has had a tremendous impact on you? And why?
That's a good question. I really admire, she's no longer living. And I also love the song that's been made that was inspired by her. And the song is Blackbird by the Beatles. And it's actually inspired by this lady called Rosa Parks. And she was an American civil rights activist. Just for those who don't know, her act of defiance, refusal to give up her seat on a public bus, that was in the 1950s. It spurred like a boycott in Alabama, and it ignited the civil rights movements in the U.S. So I really admire her because, one, she was a woman of color. She was a minority, and she was a woman, right? So she's a minority twice, right? But that didn't stop her. She's so courageous, right? And every time I enter a meeting room with men, and I say, oh my gosh, how do I engage with them? I think of Rosa Parks, and I say, no, you can do this. If Rosa Parks was able to do that, you can enter this room, or this conference room, or this boardroom full of men. And at that at that time, in tech, a woman in tech is really not that. There are not that many of us. So again, I relate to the fact that she is a minority twice.
Yeah, and that is such an interesting person that you named. Because
right. Yeah, I wish I could. Yeah.
And what were you saying? I wish I could.
I wish I could have met her, to be honest.
And if you met her, what would you ask her?
I said, girl, what were you thinking? I would love
budging from my seat on the bus.
Exactly. Yeah. Rather than ask her, I think I would what I would ask is for me to just spend a week or 2 weeks with her, just observing how she engages with people, her day. I would more observe her, actually.
That's a really good one. like be a fly on the wall, right? And just see what she
Exactly.
does and how
That's
she does
exactly
it.
what I was, the imagery I had in mind.
And what personal goal are you currently most focused on?
What personal goal am I currently focused on? So I guess empowering women about money is really has been my personal advocacy. And in fact, my weekdays are with the startup, but for weekends I tend to spend time to, just speak and engage with women about money. If I can speak in different communities, I do that, or even just one-on-one. Some friends, young adults who I know may be struggling with money issues, or just having bad relationships with money. So I just spend time with them. So I think that's a personal advocacy. And I guess a personal goal that I would like, I will not be able to do this by myself, but a personal goal that I would like to see is really to, for the Philippines, for example, double the number of women who are, consciously and actively investing and properly managing their money.
Oh, that's a great goal.
Yeah, I'm not sure it will happen in my lifetime, and definitely I won't be able to do it by myself. So I'm happy to partner with communities who where I can
really
just have these conversations.
Doing this work, right? Who are having this kind of aspiration.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. That really is a good one. I'm learning so much from you. Okay. What would you say are your best strengths?
Oh my goodness.
Why?
If you ask my family, they will say, I have a knack for finding something. So, the typical, if it's not really lost until mom cannot find it, I'm kind of that way. So I'm quite good at organizing things. I like, to have everything in place. I'm slightly OC. I'm not sure if that's a strength. Maybe that's a weakness. Yeah, but I
do you color code your bookshelf?
Actually, yes. I can send you a picture of my vertical floating bookshelf, and it's actually color coded. So the blue, it's not by title, but it's by the color of the spine. Yeah.
So these are the little things that, it makes life interesting, right? I mean, sometimes we get so caught up with being entrepreneurs, being founders, running our businesses, and of course also being women, right? Because when we say we're women, these days, we have a lot of things on our plates, like a lot.
Right.
But these are the little things that make us truly human, right? Those little quirks, those little strange things that we do. And so talking about strange things, are there anything that's unusual or absurd that you often do, or your family or friends find it strange?
They will probably say everything.
Such as color coding your bookshelf.
That's just color coding my bookshelf. Strange things. Give me a few seconds. Wow. I was totally unexpected question. I like in my closet, I kind of like all the clothes to face the same direction and all the hangers to face the same direction.
Okay.
And it drives me absolutely crazy when
someone doesn't do it that way.
Yeah, when say, all the hangers are, facing back, and then 3 hangers are facing right. So it kind of drives me slightly crazy.
That is unusual. That is unusual, I must say. I hope that's only one of the. I hope that's the only unusual thing.
I hope so too.
So, Jocs, I've had such a great time talking to you. I think we didn't just talk about business. We talked about life and women, and investing. And of course, you shared personal stories about how you are bringing up your daughter and how you're encouraging her to be a smarter, more informed investor about her money, right? And so we've come to the end, unfortunately, of our interview. Where can people find you, right?
Right, just like that.
Yeah. And where can people find you if they want to connect with you or find out more about you?
Right. So they can find me on Facebook, Jocs Pantastico, and Instagram as well, Jocs Pantastico. And our company website is theoliviaapp.com. They can find out more about what we do on our website. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jocs. It has really been fun talking to you. I mean, I say this of every guest that I have because really it is very fascinating, because sometimes we don't know how interesting other people's lives are until we really sit down and have a conversation with them.
No, thank you, Krista. I mean, I can't think of a more meaningful way to spend an hour or so. I think conversations like this and sharing stories is really, really valuable. And I think you're doing a great service for women like me who, sometimes oftentimes entrepreneurship gets very lonely. And it's very comforting to hear stories of women who, may be in the same situation and may have made the same mistakes that you are currently going through.
And I was just talking to an entrepreneur from Thailand. And she was telling me that, women must support women because it's so hard sometimes, It really
Absolutely.
is sometimes a journey for everyone. And we may all be thinking like, well, she's had such a easy way easy way in terms of running her business and all that, but everyone's struggles are different.
Yeah, it's like a duck. He appears so calm on the surface, but actually all the work, the paddling that is going
so the
on underneath,
is underneath the water.
is underneath the water. Yeah.
So thank you once more, Jocs. I really hope you get to that dream of yours where you can do something and help more women in your country. And not only more women in your country, bring that program to all of Asia. Bring that program to the rest of Asia who really need that. Because I think in Asia, we need more of that kind of motivation and understanding about how we use and do more with our money.
Right. Thank you so much, Krista. And I hope we can do this again soon.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for listening till the end. Did you enjoy the gems of wisdom from Jocs Pantastico? I especially liked how she and her husband put together strategic planning sessions with their daughter and how they've shown their daughter how to invest her money with good results too. So the next time you want to throw a birthday bash for your children, maybe it's a good idea to put at least half of that money into a fund. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share this with a friend. Just think of one friend who could really benefit from today's episode. Share this with her or him, and I so appreciate you for doing this. Until then, take care, and I will see you next Friday.